Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hiya. Hi, everyone. I am Jamila, and I will be your host for today's conversation. So thank you, Abbey Road, for asking me to do such an amazing and a job that's very privileged. I'm honoured. So thank you. So I'm going to do a little introduction of these two amazing people, and I hope you like it.
Looking forward to it.
So, no pressure. So, he is a true powerhouse behind the lens. He's a British photographer, publisher, and film director who spans everything from raw documentary to high-end portraiture. He's photographed the Rolling Stones, David Bowie, Kate Moss, Kendall Jenner, and even the Queen. And that's just scratching the surface. Honestly, I've never seen a client list so long in my life. I really tried to find it hard to kind of pick which people you put. Please give a round of applause for Rankin.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. One of the most iconic music photographers of our time, the man behind the legendary images of the Rolling Stones, Jimi Hendrix, Kate Bush, and countless others, with a career spanning over 6 decades, major exhibitions worldwide, and a fellowship of the Royal Photographic Society to his name. It's an honour to introduce the legendary Gerard Mankiewicz.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Very nice.
Oh, you are most welcome. So today we're going to be having a conversation all about Through Their Lens. And you guys have selected some images.
Have we? Did we do that?
Oh.
I thought, I didn't think, I thought we were going to move away from that. Oh, no, it's fun.
I think we've got some pictures, yeah.
This is great. We've got some pictures.
Cool, that's fine. So, Rankin, you chose some pictures. Are
Yeah.
those images going to come up for us?
I think so, yeah. Have you guys got them? No?
Yeah, no.
A pause, a quiet moment. Oh, that's one of mine.
Yeah, that's one of yours.
That's KB, Kate Bush. Do you want me to talk about that, Jenna? Or do
Yeah.
you want to ask me questions? So that's the back of Lionheart, and it's a series of portraits, one of a series of portraits that I call Redhead. Very subtle, I'm not very good on titles. And it is a portrait that I always have liked. I like the feeling of it. I like the way she's looking in the lens. I like being slightly above her so that she's looking up at us. That's it.
I can ask you a question, don't worry.
I'm not sure how else to describe it.
I don't know how many people know Kate Bush or her image out in the public. I mean, some of you are a bit younger, maybe are not as aware of who Kate Bush was. Kate Bush was infamously somebody that wasn't photographed a lot, and I wondered why she chose you, and B, why you shot a few times, right?
Yes, I did.
And she kept wanting you to go back, and literally most people, the urban myth is that she hated having a photo taken, didn't really love herself in photos. And I wanted to know, that's why I chose this. How did you get there? I want to photograph Kate Bush. I want to photograph her.
Well, the truth is that EMI actually brought me in. And they had an album and they had a cover which they didn't like. Nobody really liked it, but it was a cover that Kate wanted to do. And but they didn't have an image. They didn't have an image that they could promote and sell and that would draw people's attention to Kate's music. And so they asked me to come up with an image. And they played me Wuthering Heights. They'd had a video for Wuthering Heights. And I realized that dance was really important, integral to her presentation. And so I suggested that she wore a leotard.
Yeah.
That there would be a visual link.
Which is a very famous picture of her as well. Yeah.
And that was the first picture I did.
And did you? But how did you stay in with her because seemed...
Well, I suppose because she trusted me, and you and I have talked about trust a lot. She trusted me, and the pictures were very successful. There's no other way of putting it. You know, I did all the official photographs of Kate for the first year, including pretty much everything that was used in the first tour, the one and only tour. And we got on brilliantly, and I think she liked the pictures that I did, and certainly EMI loved the pictures that I did. And so we just continued working together.
What, was she difficult?
She wasn't difficult at all. She's a photographer's dream because she loves the camera and the camera loves her. So that the mythology about her not liking having a picture taken.
Not true.
Well, I think it might have become a truth,
right.
but it wasn't true then.
And how do you deal with difficult people?
I just email them and say, sorry, I'm not the photographer for you. I was literally about to ask you guys that question, actually, of how do you build that trust with your client?
Well, my whole way of working is to be a collaborator. So right from the beginning, I've always sent my contact. I used to send my contact sheets to whoever I was photographing. I would want to do it with them. So in that sense, I've never really used a picture of somebody that they don't like ever in my career. So
yeah, me too.
The word consent has a lot of meaning, but in terms of just being a collaborator, just the idea that they give you their time, they give you their face, to me feels like it's a kind of deal, a contract, and I've just never ever broken that contract to the point that, you know, I did a book called Fuck You Rankin, which was everybody giving me the finger, which I thought was very funny, and loads of people said no to being in the book, and I just couldn't work. I just was confused. Like 35 people that I'd photographed said no, and I was like, why did you do it in the first place? But I've, you know, because of that, I didn't use those pictures. They weren't in the book, so more fool them. But
I think the question of collaboration is absolutely key. But in my early days, I think it was much more about cooperation and trust, because we didn't have Polaroid, so we didn't have any way of really sharing what we were doing or how we were seeing until they saw the pictures. And so I think about those first 15 or so years, because we didn't have Polaroid on Hasselblads until 1975. So I think it was cooperation. They cooperated with me and they trusted me. And I tried to share as much of what I was seeing with them as I possibly could.
Talking about trust, when you see your Polaroids on sale that people have nicked from shoes, how do you feel about that?
Pissed off.
Pissed off.
Yeah, generally pissed off.
I see mine on sale and I'm like, how did they get that Polaroid? I don't remember them taking that.
No.
What do you guys actually do when you see people using your images? I feel like as creators, it's a thing that we often talk about, or someone stealing our work, and then how do we get what's paid to us? Or do you just leave it and go over it?
I just let it go.
It's like, nope.
It depends how much is involved. I think up to a point,
I think
let
you've
it
probably
go.
had your picture nicked more than me. I remember one of my photos was on millions of T-shirts, and I was like, flipping it, I could have got paid so much money if I'd just done the T-shirt myself.
Well, I think then you have to do something about it. I would only do something about it if it was on that sort of level.
Right.
If it was a blatant rip-off by a corporation, then you definitely have to do something, and they don't have a legs to stand on, and it was fine. But if it's just a fan site, people who love Jimi Hendrix and they want to put one of your pictures, I think that's a compliment. That's nice. That's fine by me, and it makes the picture more famous. So there's a balancing act.
And also when you take a picture of someone, and because sometimes the images get hacked, or you like a syndication company will have somebody that works there. And I remember I took a picture of Gillian Anderson, and somebody got hold of it somehow and started putting it out there, and you have a kind of, you know, you then, I think, have to step in and actually sort of do something about it. But it's a very dull thing to have to do, if I'm honest. And then there's some people's children of estates that make money. That's how they make their money, just by going after people to sue them for breach of copyright.
I feel that's a very common thing in America.
Well, it's especially in France has got a very heavy copyright law, so they're very specific about it. So.
I had a terrible case in France. Oh my God. I did a famous picture of Jimmy where he's actually, people think it's a joint, but actually it's a ciggy, and he's just smoking and exhaling and smiling. It's called smoking. And suddenly it appeared outside a chain in France of, what do you call those things? Electronic cigarettes, that's right. Yeah. They just retouched one of their product, a vape, thank you. Oh. A vape instead of the cigarette. So we did sue them and had a terrible fight with the French courts and got thrown out. We lost, and then we had to appeal because French copyright is completely mysterious. Nobody understands it. And anyway, we did win. We won in the end, but it was a nightmare, sleepless time. It was awful. Anyway,
what was he like? Come on,
what was
he like? Yeah. What was he like? Do you know? It's such a cliche. He was so nice. He was so sweet. He was very humble. He was very quiet, and he laughed a lot. He was very funny. And of course, in those days, every singer wanted to be mean and moody and sexy. They didn't want to be smiley. But we laughed a lot, and he smiled a lot. And for me now, the best pictures of him are when he's smiling, because you feel the person, the human being.
I actually looked up on this picture when they asked me to do this panel. I looked into both of you. And I heard that this image, is this the image where they changed it to colour?
I added colour.
Oh, you added colour.
Yeah.
Is it they wanted black and white?
No, I shot, I beg your pardon, I know what you're talking about. I decided that I would only photograph them in black and white.
Okay.
Because I felt it was really important at the time that he should be treated with dignity and gravitas, and I thought that the way to do that was to shoot black and white. And I didn't shoot any colour. Usually I would cover everything in colour, but I didn't. And his manager, a guy called Chaz Chandler, seemed cool with it. I think he thought, black and white pictures would be a great way to go, but the record company didn't like them at all.
How do you handle that? I feel like as photographers, as creators, someone comes to us and say, okay, we want you to do the shoot, they give you the brief, and then, you create the image, and then they're like, oh no, I want to make that change. How do you handle that people wanted to come in and interfere with your creativity and change things? How do you handle it?
It didn't, I have to say, in the 60s, it didn't really happen. I mean, people, either they used your pictures or they didn't. I mean, these pictures did get used. Don't miss that. They got used, and they got used in some very nice and creative ways, but they just didn't make album covers because Polydor Records felt album covers must be colour. You couldn't possibly have a black and white cover. Mm-hmm. More fool them. But if somebody changes your image or retouches an image, and in those days things were physically retouched, somebody would scrape something away or paint something in, that's infuriating and awful. And, that's happened, and then you just have to live with it.
Yeah, I'm from a bit of a different period where people always used to get sort of stuck into the creative and come up with their own ideas. And my way of dealing with it was always, and still is, to do their idea, show them how shit it was, and then do my idea, and it was a million times better. And it's inherently obvious when it's bad. Yeah. That even people that come up with it, and it got worse a little bit when everybody started using Instagram, because then they all thought they could actually take the photos as well. And so they started to talk about the image in a way which I was like, well, you don't actually know what you're talking about, but I'll still do it because it's almost easier to do that than have the debate or the discussion.
Yeah.
So, and again, it works more to the collaborative feel. And it's what I find weird is when, I mean, I've photographed some girl bands in my time and some boy bands, and I once did a shoot with a girl band, I won't name them, but I spent ages making them confident, really confident, and you know, they were really kind of like worried about what they were looking like and what they were wearing, and I won't do the guy's accent, but the manager came in after about 3 hours and went, you lot look like a dog's dinner to them, and I was like, right, and I was like, and I turned around to the record company, I was like, I just spent all that time making these young, you know, 18, 19-year-old girls feel good about themselves, and this fucking dickhead is like just made them feel shit. Like, and they, you know, because I think because of that they split up as a band and they all went on and did quite well. But it's, you know, that's kind of thing that I've had that happen countless times, whether it's a manager or a stylist or somebody who comes in and I don't know, they've woken up on the wrong side of bed or whatever, and then they say something and just like, oh Jesus. But most of the time I'm quite polite about it. Yeah.
So I feel like you got to kind of, at the end of the day, your clients are in front of you, so you have to kind of keep that composure. Do you ever feel like, does it make you lose your, I don't know, I'm like shimmering.
If I had it, yeah,
you got it.
You know, you feel like you walk into something, you're so confident.
You know, one of the great things about in the 60s is nobody else came into the studio.
Yeah. Okay.
It was just me. I didn't even have an assistant.
Now you can't stop them. Bloody hell.
No, it was just me. And I can't bear the idea of photographing now an artist who had a whole posse, a gang. I didn't like it, to be honest, when everybody wanted a stylist.
Yeah.
I don't like that. You know, when there's a rack of clothes that nobody had ever seen before or worn before, and suddenly, you know, everybody's spending 2 hours dressing up, 2 hours in makeup, and I've got 30 minutes before they have to go and do their gig at Wembley Stadium or whatever it is. It's a nightmare. So I don't like any of that. I'm really pleased that I had those sort of 15 years or so with nobody, and then I managed to cope with that, the rest of it okay, you know.
You just got to roll with it. Though,
yeah, you have to just go with it.
You can't worry. I mean, it's funny when they've got a creative director and the creative director's got a very specific view, but that's the only time that it becomes, I think, a bit of a problem.
You have to sort that stuff out beforehand,
before the
really.
shoot, yeah.
You can't, I mean, you really don't want those people at your shoot. Yeah. I hate it, you know. Don't want those people, no.
But at any point when it's happened, have you like had to like stop the shoot and be like, I can't do this, or had to make like emergency calls?
No, there was one.
I have
there
one
was
as
one
well,
guy,
yeah.
yeah.
We can't talk about them, no. I had somebody telling me how to light them.
Oh, okay.
Which was, I mean, I've had like 3 people. Bianca Jagger said, like me like this. And I liked her a lot as a person, so I said yes, that's fine. I knew it would suit her. And we have to call him Mr. Armani, did the same, but there was a specific reason for him doing it. But then there was this actress that came in, and she was not very famous, and she did it. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. It's my set, and we're doing it my way. And that didn't go down very well, but what she wanted me, she kept being very specific. So, it's only happened really once. Most people are pretty, especially the more famous they get, I find the kind of easier they are to work with.
It also depends on the circumstances of the shoot. If you're one of 12 photographers being wheeled in that day, and if you're unlucky enough to be there at 4:00 in the afternoon, the poor star is so pissed off with having his photograph taken. You know, that I had to photograph Peter O'Toole once at 4:00. He'd been doing it all day in a hotel room, and I'd set myself up, and he came in, and he was really miserable, and I said to him, you know, any chance of just a hint of a smile? And he looked at me and he went, I don't smile. And then he just smiled. That was the cover. So, you know, sometimes just works for you. They're
Also, being a bit cheeky, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like in that scenario, sort of having a bit of banter, you know. And sometimes people say these amazing things to you. Like I was photographing Eminem, and he just seemed very depressed, and I said, "Are you okay? You don't seem okay." And he said, brilliant response. He said, "I'm just bored with myself," and I was like, I think that's the most profound thing a famous person had ever said to me, and I was like, absolutely, let's get on with this shit shoot that we're doing. But what was interesting is that from that moment on, he kind of warmed up because he knew that I actually was worried about him. Yeah. And I also find that if, like, I don't know if you've ever done this, but where somebody's not well or something's going wrong in their life, instead of using that as a good joke, you know, a good raconteur story for something like this, do the shoot quick and get them out so that they can, you know, bugger off to whatever's going wrong in their life, because they are real people with real shit going on. And what I kind of find very strange is when people tell those stories that are obviously about a person who's having a bad day. And they say, oh, they said this and this and this to me. And I know we're all professional and we've got to do our jobs, but sometimes... And I find if you do that, like, then they remember you and they request you because you care, because you're a human, you know.
I've had people... I haven't had people who have been seriously unwell, although when I photographed Oasis, I thought they had some severe issues. But I have
like
photographed...
what were they sniffling?
Oh, look,
they were sniffling.
Well,
they had a bit of a cold.
when they walked into the studio, they were just horrible. No, we won't go there. No, it's not fair. It's not appropriate. It's inappropriate.
I've never had a bad time with them. They're lovely to me.
No. They were lovely with me, but after an hour of absolute torture, when I didn't think they were going to make it at all.
Oh, right.
And that was a real problem. But I have had people who really don't like having their pictures taken. And I think that I made the assumption right at the beginning that actually people don't like having their picture taken. That's a good beginning. Yeah. And then you start working with them and you try and make it... You were talking about this girl group where you pull them in, you try and make them feel good about it, you share. This is all about building up trust. I photographed a couple of actors on different occasions who were in agonies. You could see one actor, there was a comedian, Rick Mail, and I had to do a portrait of him for a magazine, but it was about him. It wasn't about a character or anything. And he was really suffering. I mean, he was sweating and he was shaking. I said, oh, well, you know, come on, let's go into the kitchen. Let's have a cup of tea and chill out. And I said, what's the, you know, you hate having your picture taken? He said, yeah, well, he said, I don't mind if I'm a character, but I can't bear having my picture taken as me. So I said, oh, right, well, I'll tell you what. Why don't you be an actor having your picture taken? And he went, I can do that. And he did.
It's like almost they have to go to an alter ego. They have to be a complete different person to feel comfortable, especially, I suppose, as music artists and actors. Like I say, when they step on stage, they feel like they're somebody else. They're not necessarily playing themselves. So then it has to come out in photoshoots as well.
I think the musicians are playing themselves at like 14. Right, whereas actors are always playing a character. So actors are always much more difficult than musicians in terms of getting them to feel comfortable, I think. But the problem with a lot of musicians is they want to look moody. So, or they did anyway back in the day.
No,
but
moody and sexy.
I found the Oasis boys were brilliant because they're performative. So you know there's a performance going on there right from... you know, the walk and the everything. And if you play into that and enjoy it and you're not nervous, I think the worst thing to be is nervous. So if you start to kind of go like, oh, are you going to be all right? Are you... Like when people are late and things, I just go... I remember actually, what's his name? Mike from The Streets came in and he was on his mobile phone for an hour. And in the end, I was like, just get in front of the camera and he's on... The picture I took of him was on his mobile phone. And because of that, he kind of remembered he liked the picture for some weird reason. And it's just kind of, instead of going against the person, you know, with willpower, going with them and going, okay, well, this is going to be... I've got a great picture of Liam where I've got a ring light up. I was shooting this for Q in Paris, and there's just a great picture of Liam just looking through the circle of the ring light, and I just loved that picture. It's probably one of my favourite pictures of him, because he's just playing with me, and it's like you just got to go, okay, they're playing with me. And then because of that, Liam remembers me. Like every time I see him, he goes, Rankin, every time. And he's funny. This is the other thing people don't realise. He's funny. They're both very, very, very funny guys.
That's good to know, I must say.
Yeah, sorry.
At least one of you had a good experience.
Sorry. Maybe I lived in the north for a while, so I get it.
Oh, well, that could be it. That must be it.
It's that old divide.
Yeah.
How do you think these images
Should we look at another picture?
Yeah. You got the next one? No?
Oh, no.
They do
It'll
look pretty
come on.
They do look pretty grumpy, actually.
Yeah. No, they were, and that was when they were being good.
How do you think
Different
these
time.
images reflect the era that it was shot in, socially, musically, and visually?
I think it's unavoidable.
Yeah.
They have to. They must do. They just do.
But
It's not a conscious
that
thing.
looks like a Blue Note cover, right?
Ah, thank you.
Was that
Reed
were
Miles.
you referencing? Were you referencing?
No,
Blue Note?
I don't think I was referencing. I don't think I was referencing that. What I was doing was, in those days, record covers most of the time were created from existing pictures.
Yeah.
They weren't conceptual. They weren't shot specifically. A manager or a record company would say, that will make a good cover. And so I learned that very early, and I tried to make as many of my compositions work for a cover. So this worked perfectly because...
Square.
We're always square because I'm a Hasselblad boy.
Right.
And this has room for text, the name of the band, and most importantly, up in the top right, where the logo for the record company goes. Now, if
Decca.
you do... Decca, yeah. And if you do all that, if you make... then your picture might come up to the surface and somebody say that. And that's what happened with that. Andrew Oldham, who managed the band and produced, he loved that picture and he wanted to do a black and white cover. And that's 1965. But it wasn't... It was shot hoping, with hope. It wasn't shot with intent. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Like, I think if the image is of the era, it has to... You can't really help yourself but do, you know, what you feel is right within that moment. And I mean, my 90s pictures are much different from the pictures I take now. There's a thread that goes through from then till now about emotion and how I'm getting the person to perform. But, you know, the 90s stuff is all confrontational, super wide angle, very close to the person, making them look through the lens, making them, you know, almost challenge the... Because that's what everybody was doing at that time.
That's interesting. That's it. I think also, I think that techniques change, equipment changes, lighting changes, studio environments change. Everybody becomes more knowledgeable about having your photograph taken, so everybody has a more of an idea. They're more responsive sometimes. But I mean, you know, that's inevitable that it'll reflect the time that you took the picture in. Definitely.
Amazing. If you was to recreate any of these photographs today, what would you keep and what would you change?
I wouldn't change a thing. I mean, why would I? You know, I think that picture... I think that picture works. I wouldn't want to change a thing.
I think the picture works so well, but I also love the fact it's Brian at the bottom.
Yeah.
You know,
We
obviously
like to say Brian at the front.
right at the front,
Yeah.
but also separate from the rest of the band.
But you know, the
Was
reason...
was that just trying to appease his?
No, it wasn't. It was because of the blonde hair and the white trousers.
Right.
I knew that the audience probably can't see, but he's wearing white trousers. I knew he'd stand out from the rest of the boys who were basically wearing dark, you know, navy blue jeans. But so it was and also, I mean, there was no pressure on me to put Mick at the front all the time. And Brian, in a way, was the most evolved at that moment in 65, early-ish. He was the most evolved. He had the most refined look. Mick and Keith still looked a bit like students, and Bill and Charlie always had their own individuality. But Brian had the hair, and I just knew that that would work at the front. It was just a sort of...
It's a great picture.
It was a compositional decision, you know, sort of seemed obvious at the time, really.
Amazing. How has the shift from film to digital changed the way you approach photography, if at all?
Look at me.
Oh dear.
Digging deep, are we?
Well, I embraced digital post-production. That's how I got involved with digital. Because I was really primarily working in the advertising industry and doing as much music as came to me, but not very much was coming to me. And in the advertising industry, which I enjoyed very much, everything was post-production, and that was where digital first started manifesting itself. And we realized that if we allowed our pictures to go elsewhere to have all the post-production done, we were missing out on a great chunk of income, but also we were losing control of our images completely. And so we set up a retouching suite in our studio, and that's what we did. And that's how I got into digital. I didn't really get into digital photography professionally for much longer. I was shooting film and scanning film, then finishing it digitally. And I enjoyed doing that very much. But the one thing that I don't like, the most important thing for me that I don't like, is the number of people involved in a digital photographic studio. And I had this wonderful experience with Rankin when he very generously asked me to be the subject of one of these little films that he made for WeTransfer. And the idea was that I would shoot a session. And I'd never been in such a flash studio. I'd never had so many assistants. It was absolutely amazing. And I arrived in this beautiful studio.
It's all gone now, so don't worry.
Oh, has it? Well, anyway, I arrived in this beautiful studio, and all these different people, very attractive, all of them, men and women, would come up and say, "Oh, hello, I'm Lance, I'm your assistant." "Oh, great, hello, thanks." And then somebody else would come, "Hello, I'm Maisie, I'm your assistant." And then someone, there must have been 5 or 6 people. And then there was an assistant who just worked on the computer. And I couldn't believe
Digitech.
it. Yeah, Digitech. Yeah, I couldn't get it. But I really enjoyed myself. I had a great time doing it. But I like, if I do shoot digitally, I shoot exactly as I did with film. I don't shoot tethered. I can't bear everybody running to look at each frame. And I shoot 12 frames in succession and then stop while I change film mentally, and then might start again. And I find that works. That introduces a sort of an analog pace in a digital space.
I like that.
He's practiced that.
Yeah.
You can all take that away with you. Thank you so much.
Well, I'm going to disagree with all of that. Because I shoot digital and I used to shoot film, and I was actually talking about this at the weekend because what used to take me probably 3 hours takes me about 15 minutes now. So I can shoot about 400 shots in about 30, 40 minutes pretty easily. And that's, for me, incredibly useful. And in terms of what I get out of the talent, because I'm showing them the work as I'm going, and I'm showing them what I'm doing and how I'm doing it and what I'm trying to achieve with it. And that allows them to be part of the process of collaborating. And I used to try and do that with film and Polaroids, obviously, but you just couldn't show what was going on in your brain to someone. And I'm also using light in a way that you probably would never use, like, Gareth, like I move my light around. So I'm kind of sculpting with the light, which really works for me.
Painting with light.
Painting with light.
Oh.
so for me, it's like a dream. Like, I absolutely love it. And also, all these people, so many people go, you can tell the difference. I'm like, honestly, like, I've been doing this a long time. I could take a photograph digitally, and you would never, in a million years, be able to tell the difference between that and film if I was to post-produce it to make it look like film. So it's courses for courses, and I've got absolutely no problem with anyone shooting whatever they want. And I think a lot of young photographers that shoot analog on film, they want to control it, and I totally understand that. It's like, if you want to control it, just say you want to control it. Don't pretend it's the film that's so much better, because it's the same if you use it in the right way. So, soz.
What does that mean?
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. No. I don't think I've ever shot 400 shots in a session.
Yeah, 400 shots is well, I used to be a Mamiya boy, so that's 10 frames. You're a 12 frames.
Oh yes, it's 4x5 or 5x4 or whatever.
So you know,
4x6.
that 40 rolls of film would have taken me probably 5 hours. You know.
I was just thinking, that's so funny, because of course I come from a time when I had to pay for the film.
Yeah.
So I would try and shoot as little
as possible.
The idea of shooting my first response when you said that is, well, why?
Why would you shoot 40 rolls of film?
Yeah, but
because you get paid for it. Well, not in my decades, we got paid for the film, so we marked up the film.
Yeah, no, I got into that.
The more film you shot, God, I don't think I've got it yet. I really need to do a few more rolls of film, because every roll of film you're making 10 quid on.
Yeah, no, I got into that later, but yeah. Well, there you go.
But I do think when people say, oh, should I, how should I learn to take pictures? I say that you make pictures on film. So using film as a way of learning, you learn how to make a picture. And what digital does, especially a phone or something like that, it allows you to learn how to take a picture. And the two things are quite different. So, it gets you used to, digital, being able to frame something and think of the lens sizes, because you can see it, whereas when you're shooting film, because it does cost money, you're thinking about, do I want to, what's the exposure like? Is it going to be, am I taking it from the right angle? Like, you start to think about it a lot more. So I think if you're learning to be a photographer, you should do both. You should not just do one or the other. And also, a lot of younger photographers that I know that I like, they use post-production in a way that I try and do it like I used to do analog, but they're using it in such an extraordinary way that it always surprises me what they can do with it. So I think being able to use Photoshop is super important.
When we were doing a television series in 2019, you were on it, called Icon, Music Through the Lens. Several of the photographers, the younger photographers that we featured, shot various different formats in a session. I mean, there was one fantastic photographer in New York, and she'd shoot film, both medium format and 35mm. She'd shoot Polaroid, lot of Polaroid, and she'd shoot digital. I mean, and she would shoot 4 or 5 different formats in a shoot.
She just couldn't make her mind up.
Yeah, maybe that was it.
That was like,
but she was getting,
to me, that just sounds like someone that can't make their mind up.
No, she was getting very different effects and feeling and result. And
everything you can do in film, you can do in digital. 100,000%. I do not think that it...
I'm not trying to tell people to go back to film. I'm telling people that when I shoot digital, I like introducing the pace, analog pace.
I get it.
Because I find that that's actually, it's more human, it's more creative. And but it's horses for courses. I mean, you got...
Let's move on.
Yeah, let's move away.
The battle.
Wind that film on.
Have you got another image to look at?
Yeah.
Are we going to change?
Is there somebody out there?
Yeah.
Is there?
Is there a tech?
Yes. Digitech.
Oh, well,
That's one of mine.
I know why I chose that.
Why did you choose this one?
Well, I chose this because the first time I think I became aware of Rankin's work was at an exhibition at the Proud Gallery, really early on, and he had a whole series of pictures on fashion shoot with the flames, and it just struck me as being innovative and interesting, and I thought, I think this guy might go somewhere. No, I wasn't as patronising as that. But I mean, so that's why I chose this picture.
Could you take us on a process of this picture?
Yeah, so this picture came from a conversation I had with my partner at the time, because we were at a fashion party, and nylon was very, very fashionable at that moment in time. So everybody was wearing these synthetic clothes. And my partner turned around to me and said, everybody in the fashion industry was at this party. And being quite sarcastic, she said, if you set light to one of these people, the whole fashion world would go up in flames. And I was like, up in flames?
And you ran with it.
That's quite a good idea. And then, once I'd had the idea, I had to work out how to do it. And I was obsessed about pictures in pictures when I first sort of started to do well. And I kept thinking, how can I use photographs within photographs to do sort of trompe l'oeil, like a kind of faking an idea that people would go, how did he do that? And I would do things like, did a shoot where I had people jump onto crash mats, and then I retouched the crash mats out so it looked like they were going to hit the floor and things like that. And I was just really obsessed by how you make these pictures that are tricks. I worked out that if I took a photograph in a studio with a daylight kind of lighting setup, printed it the same size as a human being, but cut it out and then put it onto something that then I could set light to it. So we did a few tests. And then my lovely assistant Jamie and I went around sort of East London, finding different locations with these oversized models of Natasha, who's the model, Natasha Elms. And he was quite brilliant because we were so low tech at the time. So it was just me and him. I would be on a camera with a tripod. And he would cover the thing in lighter fluid and throw a match at it and then run away. And all these pictures that we did, which looked like this, were Jamie and I doing it. But it was quite funny because I nearly set him on a flame a couple of times. So, yeah,
Did you have
there was
a
no
fire
HR.
extinguisher?
There was no HR. But there's a really good picture of a documentary guy came and photographed. I did a feature on me, and I just happened to be shooting those. And there's a brilliant picture of Jamie literally jumping out of a photograph that I love. But yeah, that's how I did it. And then everybody really liked them. And I got Alanis Morissette actually asked me to redo it, but then she didn't like the picture in the end. she didn't use it, but I did get a record cover out of her, which was nice.
Nice. Have you got another one?
Oh, yeah. I love this picture of Bjork. The contrast, of course, between the pink slip and the field and the yellow flowers. It's the two-headed teddy, though, that gets me. It's just like something of Charles Addams, the cartoonist.
Yeah.
It's just so wonderfully weird, and she's so sort of...
Well, back then she was like an alien, right? So it was like meeting, and she was so extraordinary looking. But Bjork was my second famous person that I'd photographed. So I photographed Gilbert and George because their number was in the phone book, so in the yellow pages under artist. So myself and Jefferson, who's the editor of Dazed, with me, we founded Dazed together. We phoned them up and interviewed them and photographed them. And then Bjork saw one of our magazines, Dazed and Confused, in Sign of the Times, which is a shop back then. And she booked me for a press session, and I got £5,000 for it.
Wow,
and
back
then, I was like, wow, that's like more than my dad would make in a month.
Has she made a mistake?
No. But once you photographed Bjork, back then, once you'd photographed her, everybody wanted to use you. This is the great thing of, you know, getting a picture out there in the world, and suddenly everybody's like, you're hot, basically, for a hot moment. But this picture was brilliant, and only brilliant because I spent most of that money taking her on, hiring a Winnebago and driving her up to where I used to live in Hertfordshire, and driving her all around. And I think I must have done about 120 rolls of film on her.
£10 a roll.
Just photographing her as many times as I could.
Just to make sure you got it.
Just to make sure I got it. Just to make sure I've got it. So that whole session, I think there's something like 40 setups, which I did in a whole day. So we'd literally get in the Winnebago, drive to a location, jump her out, take a picture, jump her back in, you know, go to another spot. And we just drove around. And we started in West London and went all the way to Hertfordshire. And I knew all these points that I wanted to stop at. And I think there's about 40 takes. So, but I think this is one of the best ones. And that's my girlfriend at the time's Teddy, that one of her friends had made. And I just happened to think, well, if I take that along, it might make a good picture.
Fantastic. Lovely.
But she was a dream. Like, she's a photographer's dream, I think.
I'm sure.
So you said you had many setups for this shoot. How did she choose the ones that you liked?
Yeah, she was super collaborative, and she taught me a lesson because there was a photographer that I really liked, and I liked one of their pictures, and I kind of wanted to recreate it, and she went, let's not do that. She knew the photographer, and she's like, she kind of was up for it, and then she went, no, I don't really think, and she kind of made me have more confidence in my own ideas than other people's ideas. So she was a bit of a seminal moment for me because it made me never really want to ever do that again. But yeah, she chose every picture that I took of her that I liked, she chose, yeah. I was very lucky, but I also got prints, you know, because we used to get print. Back then, if you sold a lot of prints to the record company, you could charge for the prints as well. So I think she chose about 40 shots. So,
wow.
Yeah, and they were everywhere. They went in and they syndicate them worldwide. So it kind of made me successful within that industry. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, thank you for choosing that. I like it.
Oh, good.
Very nice. Is there another one? Did you choose another one, Jared?
Oh, yeah. And I like this one very much. I just thought it was a very nice... I don't know the artist, but I just liked the picture. I thought it had a real... Reminded me a little bit of those extraordinary fashion pictures from the 60s for Black Glamour by Skrebniski.
Yeah, this is Zendaya. So she's an amazing artist. Do you guys know who she is?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
She's an incredible musician and actress, and she was in Disney. I don't know if anyone knew her from. So she was making a transition to kind of become a more mature actress. And the good story about this is that she had a record that she'd made with Uncle Tim, which is Timbaland, and we did a music video off the back of it, and then Timbaland called and said, "Why have you made a music video of my song without permission?" And I was like, "Hold on, Zendaya said Uncle Tim said it was okay." But Zendaya is like one of these people, she's literally in control of... I don't know if you've seen her movie that she did recently. She produced and starred in it, which is supposed to be about tennis, but it's really about relationships and sex. And she's going to be, I mean, if I had to say one person in the world was going to be uber famous, it would be her. She's in a TV show called Euphoria, but a dream to shoot because she's the person that comes up to the computer and looks at it, sees what she's doing, and then goes back and improves it every single time. Amazing woman. Amazing, extraordinary.
Beautiful. Where's my question gone? What makes a portrait powerful in you guys' eyes?
Connection. I think connection with the audience. I think that's what makes it really powerful. You know, the audience. You know, the icons are made by people. They're not shot as icons. They become icons because of people, how they see them, and that connection. For me, it's that, and that human connection between the subject and the camera.
Yeah, I think it's. I always believe in emotion. So if you feel something when you see the picture, like that's what I'm always trying to capture is an emotional response from myself, the person that I'm photographing, and I think if you can then make people think something as well, that's the kind of the real kind of golden. Like that's what I'm always trying to do with the work. But feeling is the first thing. If I don't feel it, I don't think the audience can feel it. So yeah, kind of similar connection, but I really like it to be like gut.
Yeah. Nice. And do you feel like your definition has changed over the time, or do you feel like it's the same?
Not on that level.
Yeah.
The way you go about it might have changed, but I think on that level it's pretty consistent. This emotional connection, really important.
And how do you work on getting that connection?
You have to have it in a way. You know, you have to have that connection. You have to have a subject who's prepared to let you in and give that.
I think
to
you've
you.
also got to you've got to love your subject. You've got to love humans to be able to take great pictures. You can't be somebody that doesn't like people. Even you can't really like. You've got to enjoy. Well, maybe you can't. I can't. And then I think for me it's I've just got more and more into talking about the audience that like. Because people kind of can feel uncomfortable, and they're like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And I'm like, try and forget all of the rigmarole of doing it and try and just think about the person that's going to look at it. This vessel, this thing is going to go out into the world. It's like a portal of time, of emotion, of, you as your face. Try and think about it like that as a thing that's going to last for a long, long time. So... And I think that then can make them feel that they can talk to the audience that's going to see it. And also, that's why I don't ever really get worried if people don't like my pictures. I don't really care because it's their relationship with my picture, not my relationship. My relationship is my relationship with it. So.
No, I think I'm with that. I think that the idea that a picture will last forever, though, it feels quite new to me. I mean, when back in the day, when I was working in the 60s and the 70s, the idea that an artist would have any sort of real future beyond the second album was, the idea of the Rolling Stones, being out there after, in their 80s, was just ridiculous. So I never imagined that my pictures had any value much beyond, oh, thank you.
Look at that.
Good tech work. I never imagined that would have any value beyond the few months that the album was around, to be honest.
Whereas I totally was influenced by that because I went to see the Rolling Stones when I was 16. So, the idea of photographing anybody that is that famous, I'm thinking my photograph has to stand up in time to Gerard's photo or whoever. So in my head, it's time's on my shoulder all the time, constantly. I'm shooting in time, a fraction of a second. It has to last forever. It has to be iconic. So I'm always aiming for an iconic picture. And I think, in a way, I wish I'd kind of, been able to have that period in the 60s. But at the same time, it did give me an enormous kind of desire to be iconic. So, and that definitely pushed my photos, like definitely. And also, one of Gerard's photos is one of my favourite photographs is the Jam, and it's one of the reasons I became a photographer because I was so excited by the way that Paul Weller was photographed. I thought he was iconic to me, and that picture, which was just up
Yeah.
And there's,
Oh, there it is.
There it is. That picture was so important to me as a kid, you know, and all of the stuff that Paul seemed to do Paul Weller seemed to do was really good. And there's a great story about this.
The arrows.
Yeah, tell us that.
Oh, well, it was funny because, you know, they were very stylish in their own sort of moddy way. But this sweater was really a bit dull photographically, and I very cautiously said to Bill Smith, the art director designer, I said, do you think we can get Paul to do something or change his sweater? And so I said to him, you know, have you got something else? And he wasn't very happy about it. Why? I said, well, because I said, photographically speaking, it's a bit dull. You know, is there any? And he saw my gaffer tape down by my case, and he said, give me the tape. And I gave him the gaffer tape, and he made these 2 perfect arrows. And he then looked at me and he went, all right? And I said, oh, yeah, brilliant, thank you very much.
He's
And
quite scary, Paul Weller.
Yeah,
if you
no,
ever
he
meet-
was scary.
He's quite a scary dude, like...
And they
especially
have
if you
real
love-
attitude. I mean, you talk about...
Well, they're a proper, like, you know, bruisers. Like,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
loads of stories about them when they were first touring, like not taking it, like same as the Who. The Who were like proper bruisers.
Yeah.
They did not take any
No
shit.
prisoners.
No prisoners from anyone. So
No. But it was a really great session.
it's an amazing picture.
Oh, I'm really pleased. I didn't
Happy to
understand.
receive a print of it any time.
Anytime. I'm sure
Just
we
put it
can
in the
arrange
atmosphere,
that.
just putting it out
I
there.
love
Just a little reminder that I'll do a print swap with you any.
Okay.
I love it.
Definitely, no problem for me.
As we come to an end, I just wanted to know what do you think is the future of music photography, and what does the role of AI play in this?
Oh. Well, I'm going to start off this because you know more.
Yeah.
I don't really know anything about AI. I'm learning, and I'm learning a lot from Rankin. But I think that people, for the time being anyway, I believe that musicians need images. And as long as musicians need images, they'll need photographers to take them. And however many bands or managers or agents think that they can do band photography on their iPhones, they'll learn very quickly that they really can't, that they're not much use. And I think photographers and music will go together for a while. And the big problem, I think, is probably going to be, and you know more about this, is that once the images have been created by photographers, then the next level, what can be done with them, will be done with AI. That's my reading of it.
No, I think that's pretty good. I mean, I think as the kind of one of the sort of judges on the Abbey Road Music Photography Awards, one of the things that I've learned in the last few years we've been doing it is that music photography is, you know, when it's at its best, and we get some of the best work entered into the competition, it's extraordinary, and it's not like it's getting worse. It's not like there's no photographers doing great work. There's amazing photographers doing incredible work, and I think if anything, the fact that music is made primarily by human beings that need to be seen in the pictures means that there's going to be work to be doing that AI can't do. I think that Gareth's right to use AI as a tool to make something else with pictures you take, or to enhance them, or to change them in some way will be a big thing. But that experience of either seeing someone live or photographing Beyonce or, you know, whoever it is, that's not going anywhere in the next 4 or 5 years, because those people have that desire and need. Now, will it change in the long run? Possibly, but I think AI, because I've been doing a lot of work in it, for photography is more about the photography that's not about the experience or the exchange between a couple of humans, or a human watching something, you know, like a gig or something. And I'm telling you, I don't know how many entries we had last year. I can't remember the number, but it's tens of thousands of people are entering this competition. Yeah. And the standard of the work is just brilliant, like really, really, really brilliant. So I'm quite hopeful that it's you know, going to get more and more exciting. And I also think that experiences are going to be, the more people are on their digital media, their smartphones, whatever, you know, the more, I mean, I was on mine this morning for 3 hours trying to create these images by retexturing some of my own photos. And it just, I came out and started walking my dogs and I was like, my God, I just needed to be in the real world experiencing real things, because it's, the thing about social media is it makes you feel terrible. Like really, when you doom scroll, this is even worse. This stuff, it's almost like it's sucking your soul out of you. Like, you know, literally, like, so you just end up kind of like, I don't know.
It's
like,
a world of comparison.
It's awful. It really, truly is awful. And I'm using it a lot. I'm using it probably 4 or 5 hours a day. And it always makes me physically feel awful. And it's not just screen time, it's the, you know, it's the other stuff that goes with it. Yeah, so I think we'll all be wanting to go to gigs and parties and events and plays. And so I think that's, if you're a person out there that's not sure about what's going to happen, have an experiential backup. That would be my plan. I doubt a hairdresser. If you want to do anything, become a hairdresser. Everyone needs their hair cut.
Good tip.
Well, thank you so much, guys.
Pleasure. Lovely.
Give them
to
a
be
big
here.
round of applause, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We're going to do a Q&A now. Yeah.
Q&A.
We're going to do Q&A. Does anybody have any questions for these amazing two? We've got one up here.
Thank you very much. Firstly, thank you for a fantastic discussion, really interesting. Thank you all very much. My question is for Gerard, actually. Big fan of your work, big fan of both of your work. But
You just saying that now.
in the
early
early 80s, there's a reason why I was drawn to your work, is because I was a big fan of Kate Bush, who we saw earlier, Björk as well, but in the early 80s, Toyah Willcox, who I know you photographed many times.
Indeed.
Visually, the most amazing woman, particularly in the early 80s. She had makeup and
You
great,
look so
great hair.
young to be into Toyah Willcox from the 80s.
It's very dark in here, but thank you very much. And I just wanted to ask what she was like to work with, because
Toyah?
Yeah, I would imagine visually a great canvas.
It's an interesting thing. Toyah was very interesting to work with. Very, very creative, quite frenetic, and at the same time very focused. And it was crazy, you know, the things that, my most favourite session, and I did about 4 or 5 things with her. We did, actually, there were 2. There's something called Blue Meaning, the album, which was so weird and strange, and we had such fun doing it. And she was one, she really devoted herself to it. She was a real artist, in the sense that she would turn her body into a canvas. And she was great to work with, yeah. We had a lot of fun.
Why didn't she, I mean, she was amazing. What happened to her, like, after her film career? And
well,
she should have gone all the way. She's
still out
Still
there
playing,
working.
yeah.
Still
with
playing,
Robert
but-
Fripp, her husband.
But in terms of her career, it's like we didn't really have that level of success, did she? Like,
Well, she had a lot of success, but it didn't go on and build into something even bigger, did it?
was
I mean,
she
has
successful
fans.
internationally? You'd be probably...
Well,
I don't
I
know.
guess she was more avant-garde, perhaps, in the late 70s, early 80s, now more commercial, I suppose, in terms of the acting and the TV presentation.
Broken Glass is brilliant. I must go back and watch that again.
And she was a great performer. I mean, she, you know, live
She looked
performer.
incredible.
Yeah.
Lots of energy.
Yeah, lots of energy, yeah. And it was like that working with her. Exhausting.
That's great, thank you very much.
Very like Kate. Kate was exhausting to work with, yeah.
I love
Thank
the
you.
honesty. Do we have another question? We got one over here.
Hi there, thanks for that. I'm Steve Aldridge, a creative director. I've in fact had the pleasure of working with both of you in my past. But
Hello, Steve.
Hi, Steve.
My question is, not that I would ever expect you to remember some advertising campaigns, but my question is actually, you both started out as anti-establishment sort of characters. You're talking about redefining the way that album covers are put together, image making, photography, dazed and confused. And it feels like you're now moved into kind of creative royalty. I mean, I think you're both part of the GCSE kind of syllabus kind of course.
No, that can't be true.
Rankin definitely was.
No, I
my
am.
son.
I know I am.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Because I get loads of questions from
I'm
students.
sure
No,
I
I
can't.
I can testify to the homework on Rankin.
Oh, sorry.
Only a month ago. But I'm just interested in how that feels as creative people to be driven and focused, as you were, as anti-establishment, changing and redefining an industry almost, to being creative royalty, to being effectively the establishment and the rule makers.
Gosh. Steve, what was the campaign we worked on?
We did an advertising campaign in the 90s for Xerox. It was in the church in Highgate.
Yeah.
And it was, there were these amazing, colourful portraits.
Yeah.
We were selling copiers, but
Yeah.
hey.
No, but it was great. Fun.
Shall I answer that?
You answer it
Yeah.
because I'm not sure what to say.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, I just don't think I am. So I don't think of myself as any kind of royalty. I photographed a couple of royalty. That's about it. But I mean, I'm still doing things that I think really piss people off. So, like, I just did a post on my social media where it was a gravestone that said "Photography's dead," and people went mental about it. They're very angry, and I was like, it was ironic, like. How do people not kind of know my humour by now? So I think you've got to keep. I've never ever wanted to be part of any establishment. I'm very much a kind of Groucho Marx. Any club that will have me as a member, I wouldn't want to be a member of. Like, I don't understand it, and I also think I'm too angry as a human to, like, if I get sat in the wrong seat, it pisses me off. So. It's actually it's better for me if I'm angry because I make better work. I just keep wanting to make better work. And the best thing that ever happened to me is I stopped competing with everybody else and I just started competing with myself. Because the minute I stopped worrying about other people's work and just enjoying it and loving it was the minute that I think my work started to kind of go up a notch. So thank you, Steve, for saying that, but I don't feel like I am. I think it's funny that they study me. Like, I'm like, that's hilarious. And I do get messages going, just with my teenager doing, and I always apologise, always. I'm really sorry you have to talk about me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Amazing. You got one question over there.
Uh-oh.
Hi. Yeah, this question is for Rankin. So you mentioned that you can shoot like up to 400 pictures in 30 minutes. So what's your process? What's your workflow for selecting out of those 400?
Pressing the trigger.
Yeah, in terms of after you shot
I just have it on, like,
Yeah, but how do you select?
Arvo. No. Do you know what? Like, I've got into, I'm very organic. It's not. It sounds a lot, but it's moving the light, and I'm moving. So I actually only work with 2 assistants now, one holding the light and one the digitech watching the computer, and it's very much kind of holding. I'm moving him, so I'm sort of channeling what I want the person to look like and talking to people all the time, which I find quite easy to do. So, and then in terms of editing, if it's a picture of, say, a member of the public where I'm doing something like Rankin Live, I just let them choose them because I've sat next to them thousands of times, and every single time they choose a picture that I like, one in 100, I'll not like it. I had one the other day, and I just was like, God, you look terrible in that picture, but the guy liked it. So, and I kind of feel that that's important, that they choose it. And in terms of when I'm, like I did Hayley Atwell the other day, and she's amazing to photograph, and I'm working with an art director then, so we're choosing them together. So it's not as kind of single down to me. But I'm not really. I don't really love editing that much. I like people to have an opinion about it. So that's kind of my workflow. Yeah, and I tend not to retouch very much anymore as well. Like I just do a bit of a profile that I like, and that's it.
Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, guys. Everyone give Rankin and Gerard a round of applause.
Thank you.
No worries, my pleasure.
Thank you, Jamila.
Thanks, everyone.